Hello everyone, welcome to a deck profile that I'm very happy to be able to make for you guys. This is a first place at a regional. This is my first regional win. This is also my first regional top, because I've actually only ever played one other regional when it was a lot of time ago, like a few years ago, and I really wasn't a competitive player back then. So this is my first event top, this is my first event win as well. So yeah, I'm really happy. I played Lunalight Tearlament, which is a very fun deck. I saw Nash was talking about how it was a bit of the goo. I have to shout out Rafael Santos, who gave me the original idea for the deck a few months ago actually. And I took it, and with a good friend of mine called Sanchan, we labbed the deck and made it completely from scratch basically. We went through a lot of ideas. There are basically 3 versions of a deck, I'm gonna talk later. But yeah, I'm just gonna do a very short deck profile, just putting the cards on the table so you guys can see. So if you guys want to net deck it, just grab it and go. But if you also want to stay for a longer deck profile, after I've done that, I'm gonna do a card by card analysis of the choices, because yeah, this card could easily be 60 card, and I got it down to 40, and then I played 41 for the event. So every card that's here has to have a good justification to be here basically, because otherwise it would be cut. Like even engine cards were cut to make this fit. Also a few shoutouts. I'd like to shout out my girlfriend Laura for helping me and supporting me playing this event when I was driving out, because the nearest place I can play is 100 and something kilometers from me, and she gave me a little care package for the travel. That was very sweet of her. My good friend Marcelo, who's basically my brother, he lended me cards, he let me sleep over. We did a lot of testing. We stayed up until like 3 a.m. deciding both of our decks and side decks, and yeah, he's just an awesome guy. Hua, who's also a guy who helped me test a lot. All the community and at the Yu-Gi-Oh subreddit Discord. I honestly have a lot of people to shout out, and if you want to shout out, that doesn't mean I forgot about you. That just means there's a lot of people. I don't want to make the video even longer, but all my friends, all my family, everyone, you guys were awesome in helping me get this result. So without any further ado, quick deck profile and then the analysis. So for the Tearlament package, I played Run Reinhardt. I played 3 copies of Sharon, 3 copies of Havness, and 3 copies of Meru. 10 Tearlament's names. Pretty happy with that. And then I played 4 names for the Lunalight cards. I played 1 of Tiger, 1 of Chick, 1 of Martin, and 1 of Emerald. Also, just because I remind right now, I'd like to shout out Sir Amanon. That basically him picking up the deck and saying it was good also gave me a little bit of a confident boost to actually play the deck, even though my list is very different from his and wasn't inspired by his. Technically, he still helped me in confidence. And then for the 2 one-offs, utility monsters, Zephyros and Fairytale, again, I'll talk about later about the cards and choices later, but yeah. Then I played a few dangers, 3 Nessie, 1 of Jackalope and 1 of Tuchinoko, just the good ones. Then for the spell cards, I played 21 monsters, as you guys can see. I played, of course, 3 of the Field Spell and 1 Terraforming. Then I played 1 Instant Fusion, and then I played 3 copies of Lunalight Perfume. I then also played a card that was surprisingly very good for the event. 3 Foolish Bury of Goods. I then played 1 copy of Call by the Grave and 3 copies of Super Poly. Very good cards. And for the traps, for the traps now, choose Soliac, 1 Serenade Dance, 1 Anti-Spell, and the last card, the 41st card that I decided kind of last minute to play, was a single copy of Galaxy Sample. So that does it for the main deck. For the extra deck, I have a very interesting card to show. I played 1 of Crush Sheep, I'll talk more about it later, 1 Dark, 1 Curious, 1 Appaloosa, this was lended to me by Marcelo, I don't have it with me anymore, 1 Nightmare Griffin, 1 Underworld Goddess, 1 Dweller, 1 Redoer, 1 Bujintang Kagetsushi, this card was really good, 1 Zeus, of course, because we're playing a lot of XYZs, and I'll talk about a little bit more of an idea of it later, 1 Muddragon, 1 Kit, 1 Garura, 1 Predaplant, and 1 Collector Heart. that does it for extra deck cards. And for the side deck, which was again decided on the night of the event and was very, very good with it, I was very happy with it, was one Feather Duster, one Reboot, 3 copies of Twin Twisters, 3 copies of Droplet, 3 copies of Gamma, 1 copy of Driver, 1 copy of the best level 4 for the deck, and 2 copies of Nibiru. So yeah, that's all the cards I played, and now I'm gonna do a short card by card of why I played it. So, starting off with the Tearlament names, one thing that I have to talk about with every single card in the deck was that every card had 2 considerations. One was how good it was, and then 2, if it was worth it going over 40 for it. And these names were decided before I tried to get into size constraints, so I was playing this even though I was over 40. So, Rhino Heart is completely fine at 1. I found out because you're often not going to Kaleido. You only make Kaleido when you want to protect your board on turns 2 or on turns 3 after you break the board. But you don't want to use this to start your plays, because having to normal it makes it so fragile that just in general it's better to start your plays through other normal summons. You rarely do normal summon this deck, and if you do normal, you basically only want to normal like a dark name that is a different type to make heroes, or just something to make cross sheep life. So you rarely want to normal something that's important because it makes your deck more fragile. So that was the justification for it. Shiva was amazing with the deck. All the Lunalite names actually have good synergies with Shenron, except for Tiger of course, but and Chick because we didn't play Poly. So basically Martin and Emerald, but those 2 make the deck have, how do you call it? It has an upper level of synergy to it that makes it so your plays are harder to stop and your plays are more valuable. For the Lunalite names, if you go to Sir Amonon's build, if I'm not mistaken, he played, I think... So, the video cut off and I was already halfway through making the rest of the profile, and I realized, I don't remember exactly how it was, but I think as I was saying, Emanon I think plays like something like 7 or 8 names. They played more Chicks and more Martins and stuff, and some other random names that add back Tiger and recycle other things. But we went through the discussion again like with the other cards. Is this good enough to play? Of course it was, and is this good to play over 40? And we realized none of these are worth playing over 40. Because these 2 are really good to have in the graveyard to get their effects and to have in hand and mill and stuff. But we don't want to normal this. Of course we want to open this, but this is limited anyway, so there's not even worth the discussion. But normal summoning this is not as strong as it seems, unless you do it to Serenade Dance. Because the way we played this deck is Foolish Bird of Goods, send Serenade, Serenade banish itself. If you have something to discard that gets a good effect, of course you do that, but if you don't, you just bring this, you do its effect, you send this for cost, you bounce the other, you normal summon this again, and then you go for Kagetsushi. And Kagetsushi, like right now you still have something like 20 or 30 good, not 30, but something like 25 good mills in your deck. So it's an insanely high probability that you mills at least 1 or 2 useful cards. And that's good enough for you to get going and to get to the other place. So, but you do not need to play more than 1 of any of each to do this combo. Because if you already drew this, sure, just normal this, use Serenade to special another thing. If you do this, you just special another thing. If you drew any of these, or if you already milled any of these, you have other plays you can do to recycle them. Tiger getting graveyard is a concern a lot of people have for this deck, but you have so many ways to recycle it. The Curious can send Emerald and just get this on field. Like, that's just easy. And if you draw Perfume, which you play 3 of, you just get it back on board, you send Martin or your normal summon Martin, you do something and then you bounce it back. Like, getting Tiger and Grave out of graveyard is just so easily, it's not even worth mentioning. But it is a concern to the deck. I just don't think it's a concern you should have a lot of the times. So this engine, not engine, but like this part of the deck is basically what you want to mill, or what you want to have in your hand and discard. Use as discard fodder for perfume and Serendipitous. The dangers, oddly enough, you rarely use their on-hand effects. You just use their graveyard effects, use perfume and stuff. Tushinoko is a free body that's a unique type in the deck. Jackalope gets you Tushinoko. Nessie gets you both of these in the hand. Nessie is very good and is the only one to play at 3 because it's an aqua. And we're a little bit short on Terra names, but getting one of these in the graveyard means you have very easy access to Garura or Kid Kalos. And they were insane to discard, of course, as always. There's no need to get banned. This card is way too good. Like, I have no words to describe. On your turn, this can be 4 bodies or 3 bodies, depending on how you get it to your graveyard or your field. So, even if you get nibbed, you still have something like 8 bodies on your field. So you can still do a Apollo Griffin with Tiger and Snow and Zephyrs and stuff. It's also very good interruption. Sprite cannot play if you have Griffin on board plus no. Like, they simply do not have a play unless they specifically go for Jet, Search Smashers, but you can even negate the Jet. Like, if they don't have Smashers in hand and a way to use it, just Snow and Griffin beats any Sprite hand. Because you just set whatever they summon, and now they can't use any special effects. Like, okay, you're gonna go like, what's the name? Centurion, you can't bounce Griffin. You're gonna make Zeus? Of course, you can't use Zeus. You can't do anything. So, Sprite needs a way of dealing with Griffin. Of course, if I had Elf, I could have made it with Griffin Pointy. It makes it a little bit harder, but I don't think Elf is needed in this deck. I think Cross Shape is actually better. Since Cross Shape immediately means 2 bodies on your turn instead of a body and then another body on your opponent's turn. But, yeah, Griffin is just too strong. Zephyrs in Pure Terra. If you see Pac and Nash talking about it in the broadcast, then you can actually analyze yourself. In Pure Terra and Terra Dangers, it's not worth playing Zephyrs. It's not just a card. It's not a card that has enough utility where you can justify it. It also burns you, which is annoyingly relevant in this format, the burn effect. But in this version of the deck, it has enough synergies where it's worth playing, and not only is it worth playing, it's one of the best cards in the deck. As I said, you have a concern of getting Tiger in graveyard, and Zephyrs and Martin are your ways of bouncing it back. Both of those are sent by Curious, both of those can be milled, both of those are good to have in your hand to just send to the graveyard or something. So, yeah, it's just an insanely good card. I think now for the spells, yeah. Of course, 1 Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion ended up bringing more Mud Dragon and Kit for protection. But it's still a very, very good card. Of course, that is the standard in Terra, so there's not a lot to talk about it. Field Spell. You, of course, have to play 3, and I think you, of course, have to play Terraforming, because you want to see this in your opening hand. This gives you utility on your turn, it gives you utility on your opponent's turn, it can get you access to the Lunalight engine. It's not even funny how many times I had this in my hand, 4 Terra cards in Field Spell, or like 3 Terra cards in Field Spell, I'm sorry. I set this, I did plays, and then I did Kid Kalos 1, Field 2, targeting this, and then from this I had access to the Lunalight engine. And then if you had a Terra name, this play is not even minus, because you get another add with the danger. So Field Spell is just too much utility. I feel bad that this is such an expensive card nowadays. It's closing into 700 reals or more here in Brazil, and it's $100 something in the US and other parts of the world, and it's just, it's sad how expensive this card got, but it's a very good card, and I think you have to play it at 3. Rafael Santos actually won a big-ish tournament in their hometown, and they didn't play 3 Field Spell. So maybe you can make this deck function without it, but I think it's just too much utility to not play it. 3 Perfume. This is a card we had that discussion of, oh, is this card good enough to play? We said yes. And is this card good enough to play over 40? And we came up with the discussion, of the conclusion that yes, this card is worth playing even if you go over 40 cards. So there was no reason to cut it down. It can be dead in your hand. I'd say no, because you have so many ways of getting rid card out of your hands, and you have so many ways of milling cards that eventually you're going to have a Lunalight name in graveyard, to the point where this is just a reborn to get a body on field, and then it's just an add of Tiger, which gets you, I don't know, like 9 bodies on field or something. And usually this is what gets you, what connects both engines, is getting Perfume in graveyard. So of course we want 3 because we want to mill this card, even more than we want to see Lunalight names in hand, for example. And then, best card in the deck, Foolish Pair of Goods. I used this card every single turn I had it. It was never a dead card. Even if I drew 2, I can just discard the other off Perfume. This again, if you have only Tearlament cards, this gets you Lunalight cards. If you have only Lunalight cards, this gets you Tearlament cards. If you have both, this extends. If you have everything you could even have, this is just a discard. This card is never dead in your hand. This card always gets you playing. This card is a lot of utility. I find it funny, and it's unfortunate because a lot of times I play this and people negated it, and a lot of times that is not correct. But in this deck, because of how good this card is, I think that was correct, and I don't think they realized how good it was that they were negating this. And then yeah, we had a Super Poly. So, oh, sorry. First of all, we have Call by the Grave. With Call by the Grave, it's also a card we had the discussion of, is this card good to play? Of course it is. And is this card good enough to play over 40? And we came to the conclusion it was good enough to play over 40. Just because of how good it is going first, how good it is as an interruption on breaking boards, and how good it is as an interruption on games 2 and on turns 2 and 3, and at going second. So this card just always provides you utility. On the finals, it was very fortunate that I won the die roll and I went first, and my opponent opened no hand traps on 15, as I think that he played. And I drew Call by the Grave, but even then, I passed with this set, and I was like, okay, I won this game 100% because no matter what he does, Call by the Grave is just an insane interruption against Pride, against Tearlaments, that I'm gonna win this game regardless. Because this protects your board. This is so much, so yeah, of course you play that. Super Poly, you can see that we're not playing Dark Rule anymore. We came to the discussion against those 2 cards because we were like, okay, is this card good enough? Yes, and to both of them, but then we came to the discussion, is this card good enough to play over 40? We came to the discussion that Super Poly is good enough to play over 40, but Dark Ruler no more isn't good enough to play over 40. So we decided to keep Super Poly and cut Dark Ruler. I don't think we need Dark Ruler in this build of the deck to break boards, because our engine is so strong and it can make so many different disruptions from an extra deck with Zeus and with a Goddess and with just the fusion names that it's diversified enough where we're not blown out by any single card, except maybe Dweller. But any Terror build is going to get blown out by Dweller, and there's not a lot you can do. You can still make Zeus in this build if you get Dweller, which is very, very good. But yeah, Super Poly helps big boards and is also an insane interruption if you get your keep it third one. You sometimes discard this for Perfume, because it's not better than having an engine card in hand, but it is a very good disruption. For the trap cards, yeah, of course, choose Soliac. This is a card we went, the same discussion, is good enough. Of course, it's good over 40. We came, it is not good enough to play over 40. Even though I love this card, I think this is one of the best Tearlament cards in the game. This is interruption and this is utility. And on my other builds, I played 3 copies of Soliac. To discard of Dangerous, to discard of Foxy Tune, and to discard of other stuff and to send it to the graveyard. And Foolish Pairs of Good sending one of these means you need at least one other in the deck. So we decided to play 2, because we always cycle to both of them on our turn. And yeah, for the final Serenade Dance, this links both engines. This sends for effect from your hand, so it triggers Tearlament cards. This specials. So Foolish Pair of Good sending this to the graveyard, getting Kagetsuchi is enough to get you Tearlament cards or Lunalight cards, and then that gets you Tearlament cards. So this always cycles cards. It's very good. The actual on-field effect can come up, so you don't get mined. If you feel you're gonna get mined, you can use Redoer, get a fusion, flip this and put the token. So at least they're gonna have a body on field that you can just link everything away and then clear the mine. It didn't come up, but it did come up where I set this and then the opponent used Light Stage on it. And I was discussing whether or not I flip it, and I just let it go to graveyard, and the next turn it was enough for me to push for game having this. You also have to be mindful because we play a limited number of fusions. Cycling Luna Lightnings back to the deck to make Mud Dragon or to make just Mud Dragon actually. Cycle it back to the deck to then on your later turn summon it back to Serenade Dance is something that came up during the tournament, and I think is something that I would have lost the game if I had not done, because I would have run out of names to fusion to use the field spell to pop things. So yeah, cycle cards, keep in mindful this is in your graveyard and it's good in utility. Anti-spell is the type of the build we decided to go with. This build has 3 versions you could play, which is Anti-spell, Spell Canceller / Jinzo, which you play in the side, and Dex Destruction Virus version, or whichever is the virus that destroys, that tributes at 2500 or more. I forget which one it is, but anyways. What was I gonna say? Yeah, why didn't I play the other versions? I came to the conclusion that the Spell Canceller / the Jinzo version was not worth losing the main one for, and it was mostly a time concern, because when you're playing against an opponent and you do your full board, they know they're not gonna win. However, against the Spell Canceller version, they know you don't have a main one, so they're gonna try more times than just the Spell Canceller version. Because both builds pass to the same board, which is Apollo, a Tearlament, probably Dweller or some other utility, and then the Floodgate. On this one, you pass with Apollo, Griffin, Tearlament, and then maybe Dweller or Redoer. And most people just look at the board and concede, whereas if you have Spell Canceller, they're like, okay, this is not game. I'm at least gonna try to clear some boards so I don't die and I have another turn to play. Even though they are 100% gonna lose, you're gonna win that game. People try to play more, and that makes your game chew, and so you have to play faster. You take around 8 minutes, almost to the second, every single turn one. Between your, like, it was funny how long I was taking because of my opponents reading cards or me having to figure out combo lines and still playing and activating stuff. So it's hard to play fast, and you have to keep that in consideration for your other turns. For the 41st card, this was a suggestion by my friend Marcelo on the night of the tournament. And yeah, this came up a lot. I think it's very good. I think that it's, if you get interrupted enough, you can play 2 low impact hand traps like Ash, Bell, Crow, Vader, whatever, and still make the whole board. However, if you get 2 high impacts like Gamma, Nib, or something else like that, you don't get 2 anti-spell. So it's good to have this in your graveyard as a way of clearing mine or clearing other floodgates so you can still play on turn 3. And I wouldn't cut this. Again, this was one of the few cards that was like, oh, is it good enough to play? Yes. And is it good enough to play over 40? And it was still like, yes. So it came to the decision that I'm gonna just play. Yeah, sorry for my cat. My cat is just going nuts. I think she keeps hearing me say Luna Light, and her name is Luna, so she's like, oh, he's calling me. Anyways, so yeah, I think this card is very good to play, and I think I wouldn't cut it from this deck, even though it goes over 40, and it makes your mills just a little bit worse. I would still keep it in the deck. Anyways, Cross Sheep. I was commenting, I think Tearlament is not even 50% solved for the TCG. There are just so many cards and so many synergies, and the engine is so good that I think we can play so much. But I think Cross Sheep solves it, like, I would say at least 1 or 2% more, because I think Tearlament builds are gonna start playing this more. This gets you so many bodies, and this gets you so much utility on reborning. This can reboard Merly, this can reboard Mud Dragon even. So yeah, this card was the breakaway for the tournament. I think I made it every single match at least once, and a lot of match I made it twice. And yeah, the extra deck is so tight. It came in between playing more Kid Cows, playing Elf, playing Gigantic, and Cross Sheep wins over every single one of those, and I think it's correct to play it in Tearlament moving forward. This made Goddess, this made Apollo, this made even Dark, because sometimes you have Kid Cows, but you don't want to link it away for Dark. So you get another body here to then revive something and use those 2 bodies to make Dark here, and then get another body, and then you go from there. For the rest of the monsters, we had Dark. Dark's pretty standard in Tearlaments. I don't think I have to talk a lot about it. I didn't make it that much. We had Locos on Saturday and the regional was on Sunday. I ended up winning both, but this came up a lot more on the Locos than it did in the regional. I think it was just because of against worse decks, this comes up more, and against Sprite, this comes up a lot. But I ended up playing more Sprites in the regional than the Locos, so I guess that was maybe about it. I don't know. Curious, of course, to make every single game. Cross Sheeps help you make this. This is also the last point they can Nibiru you, but you don't care, because usually when they're gonna nib, you're gonna have something like this on your board before you go for a Palooza. So you have 3 bodies. After they nib you, you're still gonna have 3 bodies, and then this revives whatever, or like, because you want to have Griffin plus a name that's either a Tear name or Emerald or another name that's gonna get you something on the graveyard, and Kaleido. so that if you get nipped, you really don't care. You go from 3 bodies to 3 bodies, but you add 2 cards to your hand, because you usually send Salik of this. So yeah, it's kind of funny how much you don't care for Nibiru, because you're so prepared for it, and because of the way your engine interacts with it. But yeah, anyways, this card is kind of insane. I don't think it's gonna last a lot in the game. I think it's gonna get banned. I don't know when. I don't think it's gonna be just because of Tearlament. I think it has to have another deck that can abuse it for it to get banned. But yeah, I think it's just too good of a card. Apollo, the fake Apollo, whatever. I'm just gonna use the token. I made Apollo a lot of matches. I won't say every single match, because some decks you ended up not playing it. Like against Trap Stun, you don't play Apollo, but you can make it against Eldritch because it still has good utility. However, yeah, this is part of your end board, this is part of your middle board to play through Nibiru. If this gets nipped, you don't care. You usually make it with 3 negates, which is kind of nuts against Sprite. Because they, if they ended up using Imperm on your turn to try to stop you, and they don't have another Imperm against Apollo, this sometimes you win the game by yourself. Griffin, another thing against Sprite is that Griffin by itself can also win games, because if they only have 1 special summon and you use no, or you negate that special summon, all their other names become worse, because they can't special summon another name and add or get an advantage. They have to first go through Elf or go through Gigantic and then try to play or try to clear this. This basically means you survive, or means you just win the game on the spot. I love this card. I made this card. This one I can say I think I made every single match but the finals. And it's just 1 second because my cat needs me. Anyways, sorry about that. I've been away for the weekend, so the cats get very needy. But anyways, as I was saying, Goddess is very good. You kind of need it in chair. You have to have out for Arrival and for random monsters and for Avermax in specific because of Sprite. And I think this is a good out to every single one of those. I don't see myself playing a deck that can't make this, only if it's one that can just deal with those all in engine. Otherwise, you see just utility, you make it, it's a negation. You can make it against Sprite, and if you have to value, you can't clear your whole board. You kind of want to do this so you can negate it. For example, if you have to leave Toad on board, you can negate it, and then punch over Elf, because punching over Elf is better than punching over Toad if you can negate it. And then you don't have to worry about it coming back, because they first have to link it off and then they have to make it Elf and then bring it back for you to have a negate. So yeah, this is very good. Now for the XYZs, I played 4. They're all utility XYZs. Dweller is actually kind of a floodgate, and you need this for the mirror match. You can play. I want to play Reaper to get this off, because their mirror match is such a pain. Because Dweller shuts off so much of your deck, and the reason you kind of have to see in my side deck that I have some hand traps and some cards that deal with my opponent's board is not because I'm fearing Mathmech or Sprite or whatever. It's because I'm fearing Dweller in specific. This card wins games against you by itself, but it also wins game against your opponent, so you kind of have to play it. Redoer helps you play after it gets interrupted. If you get hit by 3 or even 4 low impact hand traps, you can always just go Redoer and have a fusion name on their turn, and that is maybe enough to win you the game, especially if you have Field Spell. A lot of people are cutting Redoer, especially in my local scene, but I think we still play it. And I think it has a lot of utility in this deck. Even if you make it a few times to revive Emerald from your graveyard, to use Emerald effect to revive something, because then you have an additional name to go for Curious, and if you go through Redoer first, that's a little bit more efficient. For Bujin Kagetsushi, as I said, this is the card that bridges both engines together, because it turns Lunalights into starters for your Tearlament engine. You of course can be very unlucky and not mill any names, but you're at least gonna mill something that's utility, even if you just mill Snow. Snow can sometimes wins you games, and this can make Zeus, because it also has an effect to substitute Destruction by both card effects and battle. Excuse me, Luna. And I ended up making Zeus a good amount of times. And you make Zeus not from battling with your own XYZs, but if you think about it, Mathmech, Sprite, Tearlament, which are the biggest matchups you're gonna see, and they are the biggest matches I've faced in the tournaments. They all end up with XYZ on their boards, so you can play with all your engines and punch and clear their board and get interrupted, and then just get 2 random 4s during your turn and make either Dweller, Apollo, Dweller, Redoer, or Kagutsushi if you have Luna-like names, and then slap the Zeus. And you end up winning from there because you broke their entire board, and you have Father First No, and you have a Zeus on board, so you just win. For the fusions, I think these 5 are becoming kind of standard because people started realizing that these 5 cycle themselves, especially these 4. These 4 cycle themselves. Kid Kalos is very, very good, and it sucks when it gets banished, and it did get banished on the semifinals. But you can still play with just the other 4. Your general route is making Kid Kalos, and then you make Aurora, and then you make Mud Dragon, and then with that Mud Dragon you make Pelia, and then with the other names in your graveyard you make Kid Kalos. And yeah, those were enough to win the games you had to win. Pelia is something that I was underplaying before. In my first builds of the deck, I didn't know how good it was going to be. But yeah, I ended up making it a lot more during the tournaments. Kaleido. Rafael Santos was talking about how he wanted to cut this. I agree that it can be cut. However, I think its utility in helping your board stick during your opponent's turn is enough where you keep this. On the first turn, on round 1, I played against Mefmec, and game 3 I had Kaleido, Nib Token, and I think it was a Redoer or something, and they made access code with Update Jammer, and I realized since they paid for a Rod reboot, and I had gained 1,000 life points with Ladybug, no matter what he punched, because I had Kaleido and he can't pop Kaleido, I was still alive, and I would still have won that match. And I think that's enough utility where this is hard to out, and that's all that matters, because your opponent has to figure out a way of outing this and outing your whole board. Otherwise, this is enough utility where it allows you to play again next turn. So now for the side deck, the decisions were pretty kind of clear. I wanted to play at least 5 spell and trap removals because I think it's the minimum. Marcelo was advocating for me that playing 4 was enough, but I just have a feeling that 5 is a good number. Twin Twister is insane, because you sometimes open a hand of 5 cards you want in your graveyard to trigger for effects, and Twin Twister allowing you to have utility on clearing boards and clearing floodgates. Anyways, yeah, that was another cut, but as I was saying, sometimes you have 5 cards you want to discard, and Twin Twisters is allows you to get utility out of those cards while also cleaning floodgates and black row. You sometimes hide this in against decks that aren't necessarily back row decks, against, for example, Sprite and Mefmec and Tearlaments, because everyone is siding in floodgates for games 2 and 3. And you have a very strong engine where you can break boards with 4 cards in hand, but not through floodgates, because floodgates in the game are very, very strong now, and it's very annoying. And I wish Konami would do something about that, but right now, these cards are necessary for the deck. I also said that people were saying 4 was enough. My friend was advocating 4 was enough, but I think 5 is a good number, and is a number that you see at least one of those most of the games you side them in. So yeah, I want to play 5. Feather Duster is just a stupidly good card. Clears a lot of back row, clears a lot of floodgates, and it doesn't care if you have anything on your board. It doesn't need a discard, it's just free to activate, so yeah, played it. Reboot, same vein, is just a stupidly good card, stupidly good utility, stupidly good flexibility in when you can activate it, so you have to play it. And then I played 9 cards, which were for the mirror match, basically, because these cards allow you to play and allow them not to get to Dweller. If they do get to Dweller, Droplet is sometimes not enough, because if they have Snow and Soliac, you have to send 3 cards from your hand, basically, because you have to send a monster and trap, and you probably have to send a spell as well, so that they can't just snow away the Dweller. So Gamma is the best one, because it was always going to negate Dweller. Nibiru sometimes stops them, sometimes it doesn't, but you play it because it's the most likely one to stop them, to get to their combo. Crow is good, but not enough, not better than these cards. So yeah, you play them. I hate this card. I played it because it's a level 4. Smile, 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 smile. And I hate having to play it. I hate when it gets played against me. I hate how it feels. I hate everything and every aspect of the game that involved this card, and everything around them. You know what I'm talking about. I wish Konami would do something about it. And I don't mean banning all the cards that have similar effects to this card. I mean changing how the tournament itself works. Yeah, that's about it. It's just a good level 4 with high attack. And yeah, that was it. I'm gonna try and get some lines. I don't know if it's gonna be through Dueling Book or through playing the cards themselves. I'm not gonna do it right now because this video is already gonna be, I have no idea how long, maybe even an hour long. And I don't want people not to watch it because they think it's too long. So yeah, deck is very hard to play. Small report on the deck. I played round 1 Math Mech, round 2 I can't remember for the life of me where I played. Not even round 2, but I know I played a lot of Sprite. I played a Despia match that was tough. The only random match was against a Sky Striker guy, but I won the die roll against them as well. So they didn't resolve a single Sky Striker card against me because turn 1 I made anti-spell and they just me defeat. Game 2 they played, they normaled Ray, made Shizuku set 4, and on end phase of their Shizuku I used Havanese and I was able to get a name in graveyard and I had a name in hand, so that allows you to get Kit Kalos and Rhino-Heart effect, make Kaleido Heart, shuffle another back row, use another name to make Garua with a danger in hand. So when I started the turn, they had almost nothing and I was able to play through that. They only had Floodgates and they had Deep Barrier, but I was able to kill them just with Lunalight Bodies, making a Goddess and punching for game. And I knew their hand was an end gauge, so they didn't have Nibiru or anything, they didn't have to worry. The thing I want to comment on the deck is that it's tough. It's annoyingly tough. You have to think about every single line you're doing and every single card you're activating. Because you have no linear lines on any of your plays. They are all lines that it's sprout out from what you draw or sprout out from what you mill. That's not saying that you need good mills to play. That's just saying that the things you mill influence how you're gonna play and what you're gonna send of Curious, when you're gonna try to make Apollo, what you're gonna try to send a Sharon, what you're gonna try to fuse with, just cycle names back in the deck. And by the time that the tournament finished, I had a terrible headache, and so did the finalist, my friend Marcelo. Like we finished, we didn't even say anything. I think I just stood there like, I'm glad this is over. This was very fun to play, but very tiring. Your lines, they differ against matchup, they differ in your hands, they differ, I don't know, on time, of course. Because if you have 5 time, you physically don't have enough time to set up your full board. You have to make something small, pass them, and then try to kill them or something. And yeah, this is the deck. I'm gonna improve it. I'm very happy that the deck came out. Honestly, I think this is one of the better versions of Tearlament right now. I would personally, if I had a big event coming up, I would still take this deck over any other version of Lunalight. I think if we can make it a little bit better into Dweller, it's probably the best version of Tearlament then. Probably even more than now, I don't know. I'm still tired, I'm just gonna go probably nap right now. So thanks for staying with me. If you want to see something about this deck, if you want to see any particular lines, leave them in the comments. I'll try to get them soonish. I don't know when. I don't want to promise anything that I can't fulfill. So again, shout out to all my friends that helped me: Rafa Santos, Shenchen, Marcelo, Juan, my girlfriend, my family, subreddit, Discord, and yeah, and to you guys, of course, and to my patrons. I'm not keeping a lot of videos. I'm not uploading a lot. So I even told a few of my patrons, if you guys don't want to stop supporting me, that's fine, because I'm not making a lot of videos. But thank you still to the ones that are supporting me. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.